from 77 until, when I showed up in 81, we were authorized to wear the black beret, supposed to wear a MAGCOM crest on your black beret, which made us look a whole hell of a lot like a security forces guy, especially when, depending upon what batch they bought, some of those dark blue berets, the elite 144,000 security forces, those dark blue berets looked awfully damn black. So, at Bragg, we wore the jump wings. So, and I can't tell you for certain, what everybody else did, but at, Det 1 507 Tactical Air Control Wing, Fort Bragg, we had our jump wings on there, and the officers just had their rank. So there was a real lack of identity. So when you start getting into the why, so why is my favorite word. So I always want to know the history behind something. Why this? Why did it happen? And for us, you got to look at the culture of the time. We came from a post-Vietnam era. Many of our senior NCOs who had Vietnam War experience in either 304's combat control team. They got some of them forcibly shoved into the 275 career field when they didn't know what the hell that was. And those are the guys that brought us up. The people that went through the schoolhouse, a lot of them were folks that just weren't going to fit in any other career field. There was no place for them. I mean, I can still remember going to PT, walking out of the dorms and heading over to go do PT, and gentleman who shall remain nameless, he's finishing off a beer, and throws it into the trash can by the tennis courts as we go chugging over, and then he still out PTs the shit out of the rest of us.
Right.
Oh my God! And I'm thinking, I'm 18 years old, going, what the hell have I gotten myself into? And there was a definite. Each detachment, I think, had their own culture. At Fort Bragg, it was not quite the land of the lawless, because we had guys like Chief Fiscus, Larry Fiscus, Master Sergeant Joe Wachs, Tech Sergeant Howard McNeil, Tech Sergeant, I'm going to start messing up names now, but guys that really did a very good job of giving us enough rope to hang ourselves, and then when we were swinging, they would come by, cut us down, and make sure that did you learn your lesson? Well, probably not. Okay, well, try not to do it again, and off we go. So it really did not seem like we had much of an identity other than we were the Bragg guys. We were the 82nd. There was no direct support to the Special Forces guys. The legends like John McKay, Scotty, Robert Scott that supported the Rangers. Those guys, completely different world, right? And we started doing things. They had been doing them, but when I showed up and I went to my first jump fest, for example, Shaw Air Force Base Tactical Air Control 507 Tactical Air Control Wing hosted a jump competition, and all of the Air Force parachuting elements, other than the Air Force Academy, all showed up to compete. And it was a beer drinkers with a jumping problem convention, basically. So we spent the whole week jumping out of helicopters, and it was interesting to look at and see that you could tell the combat control guys, you could tell the pararescue guys, you could tell the survival school guys. The TACP guys, you mostly could tell because we weren't them, but there wasn't a we were we. We were TACP. Are we TACP? Are we ROMADs? There was no such thing as an EFAC or an ETAC or a JTAC back then. One of the things that I think one of the first Genesis items that came from it was there was a discussion starting about 83, I think, on some folks at the schoolhouse pushing to get a beret device. And everybody was going down the path of like pararescue and combat control, right? So they were the elite in the Air Force with the berets and devices, and they had set the path. And that's if they had already proven it, If they've already blazed that trail, well, when you're going through waist-high snow, it's pretty stupid to create your own path when you can follow the path that's already laid before you. Joe Walks came to me one afternoon, because every Friday afternoon was a beer bust, right? So we would scrub the crap out of the hangar, make sure all the vehicles were perfect, everything was put away, and then we would be given the green light, and somebody would go get cases of beer, and we'd hang around and just enjoy being us. Papa Joe came up and was like, because I couldn't help but draw. I had to draw and paint on things. That turned into painting jump helmets. Right, so whenever we would use our stark white motorcycle bell helmet to go on a fun jump, well, they were just these ugly stark white motorcycle helmets. And I asked my supervisor, Jimmy Felton, like, "Hey Jimmy, can I paint my helmet?" Like, yes. Nobody's ever done it. So I painted, my helmet was solid black with this flaming sword down the top of it, my name on the back, and I thought I was cool shit. And he was like, "Hey, can you do this?" So I started getting orders to paint people's helmets. So I had all kinds of fun with that. And there was a bunch of stuff that I painted and drew. I had a giant F-15 on the wall of my dorm room. So the entire wall next to my bed was basically an F-15 fighter coming at you. It was pretty cool. But Papa Joe came and said, "Hey, you need to take a crack at this creating a beret device." No, I don't. You can do it. I know you can. And it's like, Papa Joe, that's I've never done. Who's ever done anything like that? I've never created something like that. I'm a sketch artist, kind of a thing. So we talked about it some more, and he kept on me about it. And then we started talking about it. He's like, just do this. Come up with a couple of designs. Just bring me something. Sketch it out on paper. Like, okay. I bought him all kinds of stupid shit. I mean, just ridiculously bad stuff. And again, I'm following the path that everybody else was, considering. You got that solid beret device for combat control, solid beret device for PJs. And the more I doodled with it, the more I looked at it, I go, this is not us. We're different. And if nothing else was key to our culture at the time, I would say that would be the one phrase that would absolutely describe the tactical air control parties of the early 80s. We were different. We were very different from PJs, combat control, from anybody. Nobody else was full-time, living with the Army and doing what they do, sometimes outdoing what they do. You look at the guys that excelled at Ranger School, like Dan Hannikin and Dwayne Fisher, and just amazing stuff that these guys did. I don't want to look like PJs or combat control. I want to look like us. So I started a different path of coming up with just a crest, and I couldn't. Man, it was a nightmare. And when I said, it was a team that devised this thing, I started really getting into it, and it became an absolute obsession that I had to do this. I bugged Chief Viscos. I bugged Jim Brock was the other tech sergeant I was trying to think of. Jim Brock was such a great guy. And, we would sit and talk at his desk. Gene Hoover, all these guys, that had good ideas. But it really was Papa Joe that I would just continue working with him. And he had me over to his house several times. We'd sit around. Nancy would, bring us beers. We'd sit at the kitchen table and talk about, do this. And finally, at one point, he was the one who said, well, form follows function. What do we do? The crest has to demonstrate what we do. So go find out, go list what we do, and then you figure out what represents that. And that's where heraldry came into it. So I literally sat there for the longest time. I had this piece of notebook paper. It's since gone away, but I had a yellow pad piece of paper, and I listed every single thing that a ROMAD does. Setting up landing zones because I controlled a shitload of C-130s doing dirt landings at Bragg with our Talo. All the stuff that made us very different from pararescue or combat control. Doing the canister delivery drop up in Alaska, I did, controlled a shooting star that dropped a canister of maps and stuff to us. It was just weird stuff. So I listed all this stuff out, and it's like, okay, now that I got that, I need to find out about heraldry. So the base library sucked. The Fort Bragg library sucked. So I tried to get into the local college in Fayetteville, and Fayetteville State and Methodist College, I think it was. Methodist College, you're not a student, but you're a service member. If you get your first sergeant to sign, we'll give you a library card. Cool. Nice. So I went to Chief Fiscus and got him to sign the letter, and I got my own little library card, which is actually how I wound up taking my first college class, but never mind that. But I got to take on heraldry. And I started going through and trying to find a heraldic symbol that matched all the stuff that we did. And some of the stuff came immediately, right? So when you're talking about firepower, raining death from above, warheads on foreheads, boom, sword, easy. I mean, that one came out so quick. Right. Communications, Terry Bittner, the ALO, fantastic man. I remember him telling us, because I couldn't get our HF radio up, he's like, Monroe, if we don't have comms, we're just on a camping trip out here. And I'm thinking, holy shit, I mean, that's absolutely right. So if we couldn't reach back to the ASOC, if we couldn't make a request for reconnaissance, for airlift, for airstrike, whatever it was, we're just on a camping trip. So comm was huge. And I found that the lightning bolt. So I had like 8 or 9 symbols that were there, and I kept trying to put them together, and it was a puzzle that could not fit. It was driving me bat crap crazy, and it never worked. And we were at another Friday beer bust. I was waiting to talk to Papa Joe. One of our guys, Charlie Daniel, a super fantastic guy, had recently gotten into free fall, and Papa Joe was still a big free fall guy at the time. And the two of them were sitting there talking about about doing hops and pops somewhere. And Joe Locks was holding his helmet bag that had a embroidered U.S. Parachute Association emblem on it. Okay. Which basically is wings, right? And then the symbol, parachute in the middle of it. And I'm looking at his helmet bag, going, "That's it. That's it. I've got the wings, and now I can figure out some way that I can incorporate, the sword and the lightning bolt, and there was 2 or 3 other things that I wanted to try to figure out a way to get in there, but the only one that really fit perfectly was that omnidirectional star, and it literally fell into place that night, and I was so excited about it, and it was." Originally, it was U.S. Parachute Association wings that went up and out. There was nothing on top. There was nothing. It was just literally the wings, the flash. I mean, the sword, the lightning bolt, the omnidirectional star. That's all. And so I drew that up, and I was really proud of myself. And came busting over, called, and went over to Papa Joe's house, showed it to him, and he's like, "That's never gonna fly." I was like, "This is perfect." He's like, "Nope." What? Pop my balloon, dude. And I said, "What?" He goes, "Who are we?" Right? There's got to be something that helps identify. It's not that we will identify with those things, but nobody else is going to know who we are. So in some way, shape, or form, you've got to be able to, and that's where I started playing around with different ways to put in TACP, and I had all kinds of weird, goofy ideas, but eventually it became the symbol that you see today. And the one thing, and I think it was Jim Brock that I talked with about it, and he said, the only thing that's really missing is that you don't know who are we. And I said, well, yeah, you do. It says right there, TACP. He goes, yeah, but we're Air Force. And we never really, I'll be honest with you, at least speaking for myself, Army 1, we never really identified as Air Force. You know, it was almost like we were the runt of the litter that didn't like the Air Force because the Air Force didn't like us, right? So
Right.
we're stuck out in the Army for it, you know. And in the '80s, out of sight, out of mind. I
Yeah.
mean, truly, we led the life of Ryan because the 82nd Airborne, you know, all of Fort Bragg said, "You're Air Force, you belong to Pope." Pope Air Force Base said, "You're Tactical Air Command, you don't belong to us, you belong down to Shaw."
Yeah.
Shaw said, "We belong to Fort Bragg." So we were truly out on our own, and you
Yeah.
know, did our own thing. It was phenomenal. And it really kind of hit me that when we were talking about it, that, you know, it's hard to remember sometimes that without us being Air Force, we really truly do lose our identity. And the whole idea behind this thing is to come up with a way to identify the, you know, the Tactical Air Control Party. We are an elite member of the United States Air Force, and we can't
Right.
ever forget that without that top cover, and that's the top cover idea is what gave me the idea of creating that upper banner, that the U.S. Air Force is paramount. Everything else that happens is only because of the U.S. Air Force.
Yeah.
So all about our comms, the firepower, our ability to deploy globally, all of that comes down to we're members of the U.S. Air Force, proud members,
Yeah.
and you know, so that the crest itself was fairly well designed. Started working with this knucklehead at Shaw Air Force Base, a tech sergeant named Tom DeFrange, and smart guy.
Yeah.
Um, so I sent him a couple things. He was at the wing, and he said, "Okay, how are we going to wear it?" On your beret. What do you mean?
Yeah.
How are we
Right.
going to wear it? No. What's the reg? Air Force Regulation 3510. What do you mean? No, you have to write the regulation that governs how we wear it. I said, the hell I do. I drew it. Somebody else has to do it.
Right.
I think that goes, no. Then no. He said the easy part is over. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, are you out of your freaking mind? This was been a long time coming, and there's nothing about it being easy.
Right. Yeah.
And he's like, no. Now the hard part is to get this thing approved. And if you don't hand them a perfect package, it's never going to get approved. So now I went back to going, holy crap, I've got to figure out how to write a supplement to the Tactical Air Command SUP to Air Force Reg 3510 on uniform wear for da da da. Oh man! And
Man.
you know, long before the days of laptops and desktop computers,
That's
and
exactly what I was just thinking. Like we're
yeah,
talking typewriters or by hand or
typewriter.
oh man.
Yep.
God.
Here we go. So,
Yeah.
and man, you mess it up, and anyway, so just horrible. So I
Yeah.
wrote it out longhand 100 different times, and when I showed it to one of our ALOs, um, and I think it might have been Bob Autry, Cowboy. Um, he's like, "Well, so what's different for us?" I said, "For the officers, how?" I said, "We guys still wear your rank." He goes, "Oh, okay. So you guys get to wear the cool crest.
Hmm.
We're Tech Air Control Party too. What about us?" Shit, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
And he said, kind of like special forces, why don't you have a cloth flash behind it? You already got a crest, just put a flash. And then, the support guys that don't, that aren't, romads, they can wear the flash, or the crest, I'm sorry, yeah, the cloth flash, um, but not the crest. And then the officers will wear the cloth flash and put their rank on it. That's really a great idea. So I started playing with, how to come up with, what to do to design it. And that really came about from a lot of conversations with, anything that's on the flash or on the cloth flash has got to be visible through the crest.
Right.
So now the crest went from being just a solid piece of metal, which was the original idea, to now it's got to be cut out so that you can see behind. And by doing that, then we started looking at air, ground, and in the heraldic world, man, colors, everything has a meaning for everything. The shape,
Right.
the design, and when you're having to tell the Air Force Uniform Board, the Air Force Office of Heraldry gets involved. And you have to submit this to these guys that've got PhDs in this stuff. So I'm learning, terms like obtuse and, weird stuff. And having to realize, colors aren't colors. It's not red, right? So you have these different, names for colors because they are specific with a heraldic meaning to them.
Yeah.
So all that came about behind, okay, I've got to have a way to be able to differentiate between the support guys, radio maintenance, supply, be able to have the officers, do something with their rank. So that basis was the basis behind getting all of that done. Finally got it done. Everybody's in love with the damn thing. Papa Joe, it's kind of funny. If you have one of the original coins, when we really got behind this, Joe Locks, who's he's a strategic mastermind. You would never say that if you ever met the guy, but he really was. He thought a lot, and he thought all the time. And we were in a race with the schoolhouse. The schoolhouse went down the path of we're going to do the same design idea that CCT and PJs did, and they had a solid patch,
Okay.
a solid crest. So we went our route, they went their route. Papa Joe's going, we finally have the ability to get a coin. I mean, a career field coin. And he goes, hey, can you, will you give me one of your drawings? I'll send it off to Korea and we'll get this made into a coin. It's like, are you kidding? This is going to be a coin? Like, yeah. And only officers had coins because they were the fighter pilots. Right? So we never had coins. So like, yeah, I reached into my bag and I had a folder that had a bunch of, and these were all originals. I had 15 or 20 originals all drawn up. And if you look at the original design, I'll send you a picture so you can see it. If you look at the original, that coin, my artist signature is Duke, because that was a family nickname growing up. Well, in the original TACP design or drawing, right at the basis of the crest, I have Duke in the year that I designed it.
Wow.
Well, Papa Joe sends that off to Korea. They don't know any better. So they literally take that whole picture to include my autograph, and that's what's on the coin.
Oh,
So
that's
if you
awesome.
take a magnifying glass and look at the original coin and look down beneath it, you'll see Duke 84 on it. So
Oh, wow.
the Papa Joe
That's
had
awesome.
he had the crest on one side, and when you flip the coin over, it's got the schoolhouse emblem that they were pushing forward, and you couldn't tell which side was front or back. So it was really, he was perfect. Whoever won, he had the coin. So it was pretty neat. But we finally get it all done. We package it up, we send it off, and it dies. The whole package just went nowhere. So I'm reaching back to Tom DeFrange. He has no idea what happened to it. We try it again. It makes it to some place and winds up getting rejected. We never could get it beyond, if we ever got it beyond the wing, depending on who the wing commander was, then it would die either at 9th Air Force or somewhere in headquarters TAC before it ever made it to a uniform board. So super frustrating. Everything we've done, and this is going nowhere. There's no support for it on high. One of the criticisms about our community was that combat control and pararescue had professional officers that looked after these guys all the way up to headquarters air staff. And in the TACP world, you didn't have that, right? Our officers are part-time, and God forbid that you ever did this on a full-time basis. That's the end of your flying career.
Right.
So we had nobody really advocating for us. We worked hard to get Shorty Suarez, the Chief Master Sergeant that was in charge of the TACPs for all of Tactical Air Command. He got on board pretty quick with it. But again, if we can't get it to him at headquarters TAC, it'll never go anywhere. And the funny thing is, if anybody really wants to know who we owe a debt of gratitude for the TACP Flash and Crest, it was a very nice lady by the name of Jean Smart that ran the suggestion program for Pope Air Force Base. So I did something wrong, and I can't remember what it was, but I pissed off Joe. And so Papa Joe stuck me with being the suggestion program monitor.
Okay.
So I was like, that's the last damn thing. I do not need one more thing. And like, boom.
Right.
Hey, you're the suggestion program guy. Oh, yeah, you got a meeting in 5 minutes. Get your ass over to Pope. So off I go. Meet the lady. She's a wonderful person. She's like my mom's age, so just a nice lady. Over the next year or so, I'm telling everybody when we have our monthly meetings, everything that's going on with this program and I was just so super frustrated one day. And Jean's like, so you don't even know who's rejecting it or why? And I said, no, ma'am. She said, okay, how about this? You're the suggestion program guy. Put it on Air Force Form 1000. Make it a suggestion. I'm not improving anything. I'm not changing anything. She goes, oh, no. You are changing the uniform for tactical air control parties worldwide. You are improving your morale. You're improving. And she went down this whole long list. I'm like, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
so I typed it up, and I brought her the whole package, and she helped correct things. That woman could probably type 100 words a minute, I swear to God. So she fixed everything, typed it all beautifully, and we submitted it. The beauty of that was, if somebody up the chain didn't like it, they had to provide a reason. They couldn't just throw it in the trash can. This was tracked. And from the minute this Air Force Form 1000 hit your desk, the clock was ticking. And you had a suspense or reply by date. And man, you did not want to get on the bad side of this lady. She was after you to find out what was going on where. So that's how it got all the way through and finally up to Headquarters Tactical Air Command, where Shorty Suarez took it and personally walked it through and then got it sent up to the Air Force Uniform Board where it was approved. Wow. I got a $500 check.
Right on.
Yeah, so with the suggestion program, if they approve it and there's some merit to it, like, if you save the Air Force $10 million by creating this new widget, then you got a percentage of whatever the savings were. But since we didn't save anything or create anything monetarily, somebody at Air Staff had to come up with a monetary, the improvement to the morale, $500. One of the funny things was when we finally got the final package together, I took the first form that outlined it all, and I put everybody's name on it. I mean, it had Chief Biscus and Papa Joe and Jim Brock and Howard McNeil and Gene Hoover. And when I submitted it, Chief Biscus called me up and was like, no, you take everybody else's name off this thing. I'm like, no, this was a team effort. This was, it's important that everybody gets. He goes, no, don't do it. And he said, I insist you take my name off of it. How about that? Like, well, okay. And every one of them, except for Gene Hoover, came to me and said, nope, take your name off. And Gene's like, hell yeah, I put my name on there. I love this thing. So if you ever go to the schoolhouse, up on the wall, I gave them all the originals. You'll see, I think it was Tech Sergeant Gene Hoover and A1C Mitchell Monroe on the original write-up of the history of the meaning of the Flash and Crest. But then when it came time for the Air Force suggestion program, they insisted I was the only one to put the name on it. So he came to me and said, hey, I heard you got $500. Where's my cut? I said, I'll buy you a beer.